Hello and welcome to Gamification. I'm Chris Beckwith, an MLTI ambassador with the Maine Department of Education.
And I'm Janice Medenica. I'm also an ambassador with the Department of Education. And this is my first year as an ambassador, and Chris's second. All right. And so we both, obviously, as you'll see during this presentation, we love gamification. And we use game-based learning in our classrooms. And so we're going to be talking a lot about gamification versus game-based learning, which is a concept that we both kind of dove into. And so let's get started. All right, so before we start with the content of this presentation, we would like to share two different notebooks that we have for the presentations that occurred on March 14th. So here's a tiny URL or QR code for the notebook, and it has all of the presentations available to you from March 14th, Professional Development Day. And then over here, you have an editable version. It's a little bit clunky, but if you like taking notes directly underneath, please feel free to go ahead and open that up, pause the video, get yourself set, and then come on back. All right, so today's agenda, like I said, we are going to talk about what is gamification and then what is game-based learning and how the two compare and how they could both fit in your classroom with your students, no matter what you teach. And then we will show some virtual board game creation tools that you can create games for your classroom with your students or even have your kids creating games. And then also a game-based sandbox session where we'll introduce 7 other tools that you could use also with your students. All right, so what is gamification? So in the beginning, our presentation was mostly on gamification, but throughout all of our research, we realized that gamification and game-based learning is sometimes used synonymously. Is that the correct term? I think it is. Kind of, they're used interchangeably, let's say that. But we realized that they're actually two different things with some crossover similarities. So let's get started. So before we start with the definition of gamification, we have a few things here. #adulting. How many of these things have you actually tried or seen other people using? Like walking, bet on your walking habits, or keeping your mind sharp with Wordle or Global or Hurdle, using apps for meditation, keeping track of your progress. There's even a how well do you sleep type of app. Duolingo. Duo's been angry with me because I haven't been back for 11 days. And for some reason, it makes me really guilty that he's like laying back like this. Duo, the green bird, has now turned orange. But yeah, there's all kinds of different things that we are experiencing as adults with gamification. And so that brings us to 5 common methods of gamification that you might have experienced. For example, levels or points and rewards, progress bars, um, yeah, and leaderboards. Of course, that's a big thing in Duolingo that I experience. But basically it's gamification is using aspects of a game design in a non-game setting. For example, I remember my kindergarten teacher, she always used these yellow name tags and she had them all up on the wall of the classroom. And then for behavior, we would get little stars after our name. And I just wanted more and more and more. So I was a very good kindergartner. And in fourth grade, my fourth grade teacher had leveled books. I don't know if you remember leveled readers. Those were exciting. The kind of leveling up with different colors of books. Gamification has been around for quite some time, and now it's just made digital. 5 ways gamification drives engagement. Well, like I was just explaining, some people it's a clear, visible motivator, and you can track your progress and you can see that your goals are achievable, you're almost there. It makes it fun and interesting, like TNT, um, explosive. And then instant feedback. LOL. We normally wouldn't put LOL, but um, yeah, any instant feedback that we can get, that just motivates more as well for how to keep moving forward. Right. And benefits of gamification. So I won't read the whole thing, but just pointing out a few. Um, Gamification, it can create a stimulating and challenging environment, which can increase engagement, and it's proven to do so. Um, and also, it can boost productivity. Rewards lead to motivation, and it encourages participation, and a little healthy competition isn't a bad thing. All right. And then we love the ideas of badges, and micro badges are a big thing right now. Just going through professional development, and if you can get a little badge even to show in your email signature line, that kind of it kind of just shows what kinds of skills you have, which is cool. And your students can do the same thing. So here, if you need badges or would like to experiment with badges, it's a simple way to gamify your classroom. And over here, there's assigning badges with Flippity. So this is a tutorial video of how to do that for your students. And then assigning badges with Google Docs and how to set up that sheet for students. Did I
And
miss
both of
anything
those
there, Chris?
resources, I'm sorry, both of those resources are they show you not only how to assign the badges, but how to create them from scratch because you need some kind of graphic to create some kind of graphic to give them as the badge. So both of those show you don't have to be a graphic designer. They show you simple ways to create the badges and then simple ways to implement them as well. And both of those are free resources. We tried to choose ones that are simple and easy for anyone to figure out and free to use.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. So in our research, we found that the most common types of gamification are seen here. And within this list, it comes from this resource called the Ultimate Guide to the Different Types of Gamification. So this is clickable. It will take you to that article if you're interested. And so game-based learning is just a part of gamification. And we have some really nice visuals to kind of show the comparison between the two. And Chris will talk about game-based learning.
All right. So as Janice said, if gamification is applying game-like elements to what you are already doing in the class, game-based learning is a little different. And we didn't realize, like she said at the beginning, that uh, a lot of people use these two words interchangeably, these two terms interchangeably, and there is a difference. So the next slide kind of says it all that with game-based learning, sometimes a game is more than just a game. You're using a game, an existing game, for purposes other than it's what it might be intended. It might be just, you might think, well, this is just for fun. This is just an entertainment. But used in the right way, they can be a teaching tool. And kids can play these games and learn the content that you want to get across, and the engagement's going to be through the roof. So some of these images here show some classic board games that we all know, if you're using Scrabble or Boggle, teaching vocabulary, Monopoly, teaching math and just basic budget skills, and a lot of those others there. I'm a gamer, so a lot of these I've played and poured hours into. There's taking tours in ancient Egypt. We'll go into Minecraft in more detail later. Simulation games, uh, kind of open sandbox building games. Space Engineers is a game I used at the summer camp, where I taught STEM summer camp, and we had a scenario where kids all in the same group were all participating in the same game. We crash landed on Mars, and we had to gather resources and build the different equipment that we needed to have a base and survive with food and oxygen. And that's whereas it might not be the normal challenge that they're facing, but if you come up with these scenarios, they can learn physics or math or um, any of the skills that you're trying to teach by using the games. So in employing these, we have like some of the tools that also fall under gamification. So you'll see there's sort of a Venn diagram here of the tools at our disposal. Sometimes the ones that would be classified as gamification have a little bit of game-based learning to them as well.
Mhm.
But they're all rooted in the kids acquiring skills. They're having fun, but in the end, they're doing it to acquire the skills. And if you just want to be careful you're not falling into the trap of using a game just for the sake of using a game, and make sure that you're clear from the beginning. What are your outcomes, and are they going to be achievable by using this game?
Mhm. That's a great point, for sure.
And like gamification, the benefits of game-based learning are numerous. These things just sell themselves. They're engaging, they're motivating, they're it encourages problem solving in a fun way. The game itself is the reward, and they're learning in spite of it. So here's a chart we found that again kind of summarizes and compares the two terms there. And not reading that all to you, but I would kind of take issue with maybe the claims in the last one where it says gamification low cost and low time investment because the standard tools already exist. They do, but there could be a time investment in creating badges.
Hmm.
So it's not saying there's no time investment with gamification, but a lot of those tools kind of already exist. That system is there for you to use. Whereas with game-based learning, you might have more money invested if you've got to purchase the games to be used, whether it's a digital game or a board game. You've got to actually purchase the games, and your content might not be immediately applicable to that without you designing some lessons around it. So it may be a little bit more effort there, but for the most part, there are similarities between the two, and there are differences with gamification applying game-like mechanisms to your learning, and game-based learning using existing games to teach the content. So we're going to highlight a couple of virtual board game creation tools. And while I'm discussing these, I'd like you to think about not only how you would use these as a teacher to create games for students to reinforce what they have learned, but how students could use these tools also to demonstrate what they've learned in the classroom. The first one is Tabletopia. And this slide here gives an example of what our team created using Tabletopia. And I want to just say right up front, this was the product of a team of 11 people working months to create the content for this. So we created the activities that would occur in the game. We created the graphics, we created the models that the custom models that were used in it. So that this was a lot of work. We used a paid version of Tabletopia to create this particular game. This was what we used in our main winter classic virtual kind of virtual student conference game in the over the last 2 years with students participated around the state. If you scanned that QR code or visit that tiny URL, you can experience the game for yourself, see what that's like. That's much more involved than you would ever get to creating something for your class or that your students would create. So I don't want the depth of that to intimidate you. It we like I said, we use the paid version mainly because it allowed us to use custom models. We wanted specific main icons to be used as game pieces in the game. And so by paying for the full features, we are able to do that. And if you did that, kids could design 3D models on using Tinkercad or SketchUp or what and export these models and import them into the game. Totally not necessary, just an extra feature. So on your own time later, feel free to check that game out if you weren't involved with it in previous years. For a simpler example, this was one that I created just to bring a game concept that I had in mind. And that's where this tool shines is because I think a lot of people have ideas in their heads for, hey, this would make a neat game, but I don't have the resources to actually make this game. So so that's what I did with this. I kind of brought my imagination to life, totally using the free version of Tabletopia. I created the graphics in Canva, and then I imported them into the game. I imported the board, I imported the texture, the skins that are used on those pyramidal die, and I just used the generic uh, default game playing pieces that are there. I created the graphics for a few of the playing cards that are there, and that was all with the free version. I want to point out there's no coding involved here. You're not programming anything about how the game moves. You're just putting pieces on a board. It's just like if you had the actual game board, a physical game board in front of you. The game doesn't move itself around. You have to know the rules. You have to move the pieces around the board. You roll the die. You read the cards. It's all you grab those things, you manipulate them, but you have to follow the rules that the game creator has set.
Yep, perfect. Did you want to tell them the main idea of the game
Well, in this
in
particular
case they want to play it?
Yeah, and this my concept here was that uh, you each player is represents sort of and every game is different. So in a particular game, you draw cards, arms, feet, and body coverings to show what traits your animal has. And then you roll the die, and that's for each turn you have a specific terrain and you have specific weather. So depending on the traits that your animal has, they will have advantages or disadvantages in a given terrain or a given weather condition. And each turn you get to move a certain number of spaces depending on the advantages or disadvantages your particular creature has, and the first one to the end wins. So, and then the next game you have different traits, and it's a completely different game. So it was a way to just bring an idea to life, and in this case you could apply some science
Hmm.
science to it.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you want to play around with Tabletopia, what I've done with the QR code there on the right is I've given you all of the assets that I used to make that game, to make the natural rejection game. So it you can go to that URL. It should be a Google Drive that you can access. It's got a PDF with the rules. It's got a graphic for the board, a graphic for the game box, because when you look at your project on Tabletopia, it shows a little game box there. So I made a graphic for that. The I gave you a skin for just the weather die, just to practice importing that. The terrain die is not there. And then the body cards graphics are there. Or it's not the whole, all of the game assets, but it's enough to give you an example, some examples to import. So if you went to Tabletopia's site and you said create a new game in their creation tools, you could import these different elements and just see what it's like bringing in a deck of cards. And the explanation for how to do all of that are in the tutorials that we provide, I believe,
Right here.
on here.
Hmm.
So these tutorials are the ones that we found on Tabletopia. They have a great help session. They have a Discord where you can go and ask questions, get them answered almost instantly. And so every aspect of game creation on Tabletopia is here for you, from importing the pieces to how to make a deck of cards once you've imported them, how to choose how the things um, how to use their pre-made objects like the playing pieces and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
So an alternative to Tabletopia, and really not comparable. These are two very different tools. So genially, we made a elementary version of the Winter Classic game using Genially. And if you show them the first slide of that, the actual game board of that,
Hmm.
Uh, there's a there are similarities and there are differences here. The gameplay was roughly the same, but this is all 2D. It has a mechanism to roll a die, as Janice is showing there. The game pieces aren't 3D models. Everything's very flat, but you're moving around the board. You're still participating in tech activities, and you're gaining trinkets as you go. And so that it's similar in that, but we were able to reuse the activities that we had already compiled for from the other version of the game. But that's just uh, showing that what can be done in Genially. A lot of people don't realize the depths of things you can do in Genially. And I believe the next slide.
I had to escape. Sorry.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. There it is.
So, so just an overview of what Genially can do. Uh, it's a collection of tools for teachers to use. So you can see in that white strip across the top there, you can create games, you can create quizzes, presentations, infographics, videos. There's a lot of tools at your disposal here. We were looking in this presentation, we're looking at it as how can this help me or how can this help my students create games?
Hmm.
So you can see there are thousands of templates available so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel for things that you're doing. Kids can customize the content that they're putting into these. And in that graphic there showing the grid of some of the different examples, that's just under the gaming tools. These are the different types of
Okay.
games that you can create there. And that scroll, that was just the top of the list. The scroll, there were many more there. And so these are all the kind of the pre-built examples where kids could take these and customize and apply what they're learning in any content area to a game here. And all of these tools, I believe, are free as well.
Hmm. And what's nice about them, there's no code interactions and animations, so they don't have to code to use this either. All right.
Yeah, so if you saw something that you liked there, if you want to explore Tabletopia and or Genially, feel free to pause the presentation now and, and then come back when you're ready to proceed because we have some more fun things to show you.
Okay, welcome back. If you decided to pause and play around, we hope you learned something new or found Genially or Tabletopia interesting for yourself or for your students to create with. So in the rest of the presentation, Chris and I have chosen a few tools that we would like to share with you for game-based learning. Or gamifying your classroom. And so for this session, for this part of the sandbox, I'm going to explain these four. They have a similar concept behind them. They're all quiz-based games, but they all have a little different elements that makes them really special. So I'm going to go and start with Kahoot first. So each slide is set up similar. So the arrow, if you click on that, it'll take you directly to Kahoot. When we polled the participants last time, most of the participants have um, been using Kahoot. It's been around for quite some time, but Kahoot is now even improving. It has a new AI tool. It also um, has a teacher toolbar and different games that students can play at their own pace. So they can play individually. Um, you can use it as an assessment if you want, because you choose the questions. And you can set a certain date for it to be open, a certain date and time for it to close. You can also, let's see, you can have it class-paced, so there's teams playing against each other or developing something or running away from a submarine or a fish. Uh, and or it can just be the classic Kahoot game. But there's one game example up here during the sandbox, the playtime. Feel free to try that out. You also have tutorials down here.
And if you haven't used these tools in a while, like Kahoot, if you haven't used it in a while, go check it out because, as Jenna said, they're always adding new things.
Yeah. GimKit, I hadn't used it in a couple months and it's different. So GimKit is a different type of tool, but it has similarities to Kahoot in the sense that when kids are asked a question, they get choices, um, four choices of answers. So it is kind of multiple choice. But the other thing is it incorporates money sense. They have an item shop. So during the games, they earn money. And also they appeal to kids' present game-based interests. For example, Trust No One is one version of the game where it's kind of like Among Us. So the kids like that. There's also The Floor is Lava. Draw That is kind of like Pictionary. So we do that I use it in science class just before tests. So I have them sketch out cell organelles. And it's really fun to see how quickly they can identify the cell organelles and answer. Spelling is interesting though. So giving the kids a word bank, if they can guess the word, they can have the spelling in front of them. So that's one cool way to use GimKit, are great review games. And then BlueKit is another really fun quiz game that appeals to the kids. There's code. Uh, anyway, it's like a hacking game, but then there's like fish, and the kids can use the points that they get in the game to go into the store. They can also get a different skin. So if it's a holiday, they can um, play like in a winter themed skin. They get instant feedback. Again, you can assign it for homework. You can play as a whole class, and kids can also work together. They have a battle royale where it's two students in the class. They have to answer the question faster. I only use that at the end of a unit, really, when everyone should be familiar with the information. Um, Otherwise, or I stop it with like 6 or 4 students left in the game. So we don't really get down to the one. But yeah, there's lots of resources. One thing that I like about Kahoot and Blue, like Chris was mentioning, the game-based learning could be time could take a lot of time and a lot of money, but Blue, you can still run it. There is a version that is free and same as Kahoot, but you can upgrade for like $4 or $6 a month. So they're not terribly expensive. But you can also search up sets in both Kahoot and Blue, and some other teacher has used it. I just always double check the answers and the questions that they have in there. But it's super easy setup. The kids love it because they all have their own little characters. And quizzes is another one. Oh, one thing to mention here, if you use Conmigo in your school, there's a function in Conmigo where kids can actually create a Blue out of the vocabulary of the lesson that they're learning about, which is kind of cool. And in quizzes, there's a new feature. There are AI tools in here, but also this new one where they've integrated PhET interactive simulations with the quizzes. You can create presentations. So this is more of like a interactive tool. But again, if you want to go simple, there are so many games that have already been created around different topics. So if you can search that up, what are you teaching today? You can search by topic. You can import slides into quizzes from a presentation you've already created, or you can create a lesson. This is what some questions look like. But with the paid version, you can get things like sorting and AI accommodations. You can also differentiate. So you can take 4 choices and tell quizzes to make it just 2 choices for um, accessibility for students. Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it for those 4 tools. So all 4 of them are quiz games. There are banks of yeah, there are banks of questions that teachers have already created, so it does not have to take a lot of time. You can check out tutorials. On each of the slides, there is a little green button that has an example quiz on gamification and game-based learning, so it stays consistent with what we've been talking about, but it also shows you what the games are like. So it's a great entry point as well. I don't think I missed anything, but if you'd like to have some playtime and try any of those, then feel free to pause the video and go back to any of the slides and dive a little deeper into any or all of those games. And there we go.
I would like to introduce you to three of my favorites, and maybe you've heard of some of these, and maybe you haven't. I'm guessing you've heard of Minecraft, but Code Combat and Prodigy are also some great resources. So I'd like to show you what those look like and tell you how you might be able to use those. Code Combat is my go-to online coding site for my middle school students. It's the only one that I've been willing to ask my district to subscribe to because of the quality that kids love it, the way that it's game-based learning, it gamifies learning coding, and the most importantly for me is that it's a it's a transitional piece that gets the kids kind of weans them off of block-based coding and introduces them to text-based coding where they actually are typing in the text lines, the lines of code, just like programmers do in the real world. So I think that's extremely valuable for them, and it shows them as a teacher, you don't have to know how to do any, you don't have to know anything about coding. There's tutorials there for you and for the students, but you don't have to know. There's help all along the way to get the kids through it with solutions there. So the kids will figure it out and they will learn a lot. With the free version, without paying for anything, you can import a class of students from Google Classroom. You'll see them all in your dashboard. You can assign them the first free chapter, and then you'll see all of the activities there for that free component, and it shows you as each individual kid completes that particular activity, you can track their progress on this dashboard. And when with our subscription, when I see that a kid is sometimes kids never make it to the end of the free one, and sometimes kids will get through that. It's like, is there more? Can I do more? So then I can assign that if we have the paid version, I can assign those kids. And we don't need a license for every kid because they don't all get through it. I use it as kind of a supplement to other things I'm doing in my class. So if they finished their other work, they can work on their code combat programming. But the kids eat it up, and it's just a very good quality. They also have another one, the same company makes one called Ozaria, which is very similar, and it's just a little more story based, and the kids love that as well. Prodigy has been around for a while, and it looks very like it's designed for younger grades, but again, my middle school students eat it up, and older students probably would as well. You create an avatar, and then you go into this world. There's other players there that might be friends that are from their own class. There might be people from all over anywhere else in the world. There's no real player interactions. It's all designed to be safe for school, so you don't have to worry about that. There is a math part and there's a English part. So depending on what you want to reinforce, you can assign specific math topics or specific English topics, and then as the player goes through the world, they encounter these different scenarios where they have to apply the knowledge of these concepts, and they love it.
And just one thing about Prodigy that I remembered hearing in a podcast is that the kids move through the standards from your specific state. They have all of them. Um, they have all of them in there.
And in case
Sorry.
you have never heard of Minecraft, there's this game called Minecraft, and it seems to have a following even now that kids have all gone into the world of Fortnite and other more violent games. They like Minecraft is still a favorite by a lot of people, and if the kids have never played it, they are familiar with it, and I've never met a student that says I don't like Minecraft. So when they go into Minecraft for education, it's a familiar world, but the rules are a little different. When you and this is not a free service, so you do have to subscribe. I'll say that up front. And the most painful part of the process is just having your IT department set up these Microsoft Office 365 accounts, which for some reason is just inexplicably difficult and time consuming. Once they're set up, there's really nothing to worry about. The cost per kid If you only need like one class worth of licenses, so if you're going to have one class doing it using this at a time, so 25 licenses, I don't know the price today, but it's less than $10 per kid, I believe the last time I checked, and much less. So it seems like a very affordable option to get a class set of licenses. Once you're in, they have all of these resources developed by educators for pretty much any content area you can name. So there's guided experiences where the kids are either working together or individually in the world, building things, interacting with things to learn concepts and that they're learning in class. Even as a standalone sandbox game, I've seen kids get extremely motivated where we are in the digital age now. So if you're asking kids to make a poster or make a shoebox diorama, I they could get in their time machine and go back and a few decades and do those things, or they could use the digital tools of today. And so Minecraft is the modern age version of the shoebox diorama. When if you told the kids you need to make a model of this thing using cardboard and maybe they'll get excited about that. But I've seen kids who were motivated by nothing else, who were nothing about school excited them. They just couldn't wait to get home, and they spent hours designing something that they needed to demonstrate for an English class, this setting, and they just poured so much time into on their own time into the details of this intricate structure to demonstrate that they understood what they were learning in class. So it really is a literal game changer. Do we have an
Yep.
example of some of the uh, lessons that are available on the site?
Yes. We just I have to move us out of the way. And we have right here. There we go.
So here's some categories there. Beyond computer science, they could use it for that. Let's go down a little bit more. Do they have some of the other? There we go. So
Mhm.
let's look at the math topic, for example.
Okay.
So there's activity there where they can explore ratios. They what do we have on the list here? If we just scroll down through this list here.
Mummy Mayhem.
Okay,
Is math
exploring
active?
pi. Um, they
Piecraft.
and they these you can see that the thought that has gone into these, the preparation, uh, and they're not just saying, hey, maybe kids will learn something. They've done the research. They've got the numbers there to show you learning fractions, basic math functions, area and volume, because you're building in 3D. So it really, it's not difficult. If you can't think of it on your own, someone else already has, and the lessons already exist there. So you can go through here. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to know how to create a world, and you can send the kids into one of these worlds if you've paid for the licenses for this.
That's awesome.
So that's all that I would say about those three, and I would say uh, definitely explore those on your own time. We are running out of time with our presentation, so feel free to pause and check those out. But we're going to kind of wrap things up here.
Yep.
This was a report from Common Sense Media, an excellent resource if you don't use that when you're looking at is this particular media, website, game, movie, is this appropriate for this particular age group? Excellent resource. But like the upper left comment there, comparing gamification versus to game-based learning, it says while gamified tools like Kahoot and some of the other ones we looked at definitely boost engagement. When you have a game-based learning approach, sometimes that can offer opportunities for deeper learning.
Mhm. And here's the article at the bottom where these quotes came from, if you're interested to check that out.
And I remind you again, if you're implementing any of these tools, you keep your eyes on the prize and make sure that your outcomes are clear and that your methods are really serving your purpose and not a distraction from the learning. They should be helping the kids arrive at the learning and not serving as a distraction.
Right.
So speaking of gamifying things, we have a game for you now. We have a puzzle question. What is the best thing about teaching? And you already have the answer because it has been embedded in this very presentation. You may have noticed, if we go back to slide, there's a slide, that the occasional slide in this presentation has an oddly out of place Scrabble letter. And so here in the lower right-hand corner, we can see a W. So we will leave it to you to work your way backwards through our presentation and see if you can find all of the Scrabble letters and see if you can arrive at the answer for our puzzle, which is what is the best part, best thing about teaching. We'd like you to remember that, as always, don't be overwhelmed by all of this content. Pick something, start small, and make it purposeful. Don't do it for the sake of doing it. Make sure that it's serving your purpose.
Right. And know your why, not just to have fun with the kids or see them smile, which is amazing, but keeping the learning in the loop as well. And we have a bunch of resources. Thank you so much for um, hanging out with us today for the last hour. And if you want any more information, here are some links about gamification and game-based learning. And down here, just for fun, we thought we would add a game show soundboard. If you want to use that in your classroom, that's something you can use right away.
Nothing makes Nothing spices up any classroom lesson more than being able to slam your finger down on a wrong buzzer.
Exactly.
We appreciate your feedback. Again, thank you. Like Janice said, thanks for joining us with this. And we hope that you have got some tools to add to your toolkit. We would appreciate your feedback. Let us know how we did, what we can do to improve. And we're always looking to make things better. And if you have any questions about anything that you've seen here, definitely reach out to us and we will be more than happy to help you.
Yeah. And for your contact hours, if you need a contact hour for this, you can click here or go to the QR code and fill out the form and print it out, and you have your contact hour from this session. And here's the team. And we thank you so much for joining us today. And don't hesitate to email us. You have all of our contact information. And yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.